Hey everybody from Eating Disorders class, it's Justin Doherty. I'm just going to do a presentation on my article reviews. For the first article I did a review on was for Treatment and Challenges for Men with Eating Disorders by Roger Collier in 2013. And he said that therapy often takes place in groups, in a group setting, which usually has more women than men. So that more comes into the stigma that men feel when they are talking about their eating disorders, such as feeling more feminine or not less masculine, and so that makes them more fearful, and it establishes more their insecurities while they're talking. So they don't really come out as much in treatment when it comes to things that are group therapy or therapy related, because boys are taught to repress their feelings rather than be open and show really what it is that they want to say about their emotions. And men and women both struggle in these types of treatment systems, so they kind of need to be remodeled a little bit. When it comes to the group treatments, it needs to be, I think, less group oriented and more individual basis, and just have more open, listening with active responses and stuff like that. I think that a lot of the men in this study, they talk about having over 50% of them having issues with over-exercising, and I thought that was kind of interesting because it really goes into the fact that there are different symptoms for men than women, because of the fact that men more don't want to necessarily lose weight, they more want to gain body tone and look strong and buff. So a lot of the treatment places for these type of disorders for men, eating disorders, make it difficult for the men to pay because of the fact that insurance companies don't believe that men get eating disorders because of how rarely they occur. And so that was the first study. The second study I seen was Being Men with Eating Disorders, Perspectives of Male Eating Disorder Service Users. And that's by Robinson, Mountford, and Sperlinger, and it's 2013. They did a study with 8 men, and they asked them basically to explore the experiences they have while they're currently using eating disorder services. And they said that almost over half the men said that they had difficulty seeing themselves as having an eating disorder, and they had troubles in the treatment because of that. And so basically they said that they said they couldn't tell others that they had an eating disorder, and they also couldn't admit to themselves that they had an eating disorder, which lays into other problems that they're going to have down the road about that eating disorder, so such as repressed feelings, anger, ashamed, embarrassment, things like that. So that was the second study I did. For the third study, I said the third study is Do Men with Eating Disorders Differ from Women in Clinics, Psychopathology, and Personality? That's by Navarro et al., 2012. And they did a study with 60 males and 60 females, which were all compared. And the male participants had a lower use of laxatives and a higher amount of vomiting episodes. And that means basically that the males didn't want to have to use the laxatives. I'm not sure why they didn't go into that. It's just a finding they found, and that the vomiting episodes, I guess I can understand that because you have to make up for the difference in laxatives somewhere else. And so the male participants also scored lower than female participants with eating disorders on harm avoidance, reward dependence, and cooperativeness. So they were less cooperative, probably because they felt like they were being judged or stigmatized. They didn't really go into that, but that's just what I'm getting from one article to the other. They kind of all have the same theme, with that men don't feel comfortable admitting when they have an eating disorder to themselves or others, and that they feel a little bit less masculine and more feminine because of that. And that's kind of goes along with the eating disorder. Masculinity means big and strong, and that's really what they want to do with the eating disorder. They don't necessarily want to lose weight. They just want to be strong and look tough, or be toned, or whatever it be in that spectrum. And it says males had less body image concerns, which goes along with what I'm saying. They don't necessarily believe that they look flabby or bad. They just think that they could use some toning, and they really want to be buff and strong and bigger. and general psychopathology, so their mind frame is different than the females. The last study I did was eating disorders and body image of undergraduate men. So, and that's by Ousley in 2008. And they tried to identify the differences and similarities between undergraduate men and women when it comes to eating disorders and body image. They compared the undergraduate men with the undergraduate women, and they each had eating disorders, and the undergraduate men and they also compared them with undergraduate men that didn't have eating disorders. They found the men with eating disorders were particularly preoccupied by body shape and tone, but not necessarily losing weight. So that kind of goes along with what I've been talking about for the last couple of articles, and that men are just more concerned about being strong and tough than losing weight. And that has a lot to do with the social implications of what a man is and what masculinity is and what being tough is. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the actual representation of men in the world. It's just what people feel like men should be. And in our textbook by Carolyn Costin, the Eating Disorder Sourcebook, she talks a lot about she doesn't really think that males, she thinks along the same lines as those articles. They think that the intensely athletic and thus are more likely to have begun dieting to greater sports performance or alleviate fear of gaining weight because of sports injury. So it has a lot to do with just being better at sports or being more athletic or being bigger, and it's all along the same lines. And so it's not really about losing weight, even though she talks about losing weight in here. I don't think it is. And males just have trouble in treatment with this kind of thing because it doesn't allow for them to have any kind of openness in their conversations or any kind of ability to talk about their feelings, so and also it has a lot to do with others judging them and making assertions that aren't necessarily true. And so for that, I would say, there's a quote from the Bible that I'm kind of summarizing, and I'm saying that you shouldn't judge others because you'll be judged by the same ruler when you get up there to the pearly gates. So thanks guys for listening.